coming from the MBC. A few years ago, while I interacted with folks from the director general is not, X, Y, and Z. He's not qualified. That man is incompetent and so on. That will be conflict right there in the MBC. But now, I don't know what the status of the National Bureau of Concession is. I know subsequently we're going to have a conversation with the director general of that institution. But let's begin with the Department of Communication there, where we're going to hear from them how the MBC is, how it's operating, what are some of the things that we need to consider, and several other things, to take into consideration at the MBC. Before then, I know a lot of us, are followers of Liberian politics. And talking about being a follower of Liberian politics, we've come to realize that several things have happened in our country's history, and those things such as war, killing of one another, from one ethnic group to another, one community to another. We've done so many things to ourselves in several different ways. And so today, just yesterday, by the way, or should I say Saturday, we laid to rest one of the individuals that has consistently been accused of participating in several different ways into the commission of mayhems against his own people. Some would say that he was a hero. Others will call him a warlord. Others will say he murdered several people in the mind of a Nimbayan, like the current vice president, Vice President Jeremiah Kpankun. He would say, well, we've done well. That man, there's no court in this country that ever prosecuted him and found him guilty of any crime committed against whatever group of people that you may think about. Some saw him as a liberator. Several people from different walks of life described him differently. But today, he's gone. Today, he's considered a dead man. In fact, he's a dead man. Not just considered, but he's a dead man now. All right? He's been buried. Honor to his name. All right? Honor to his name. But what do you think? How would you describe the late Prince Yomi Johnson, the senator, the late senator of Nimba County, clergyman, at the same time, warlord? How would you describe him in one or two words? How would you describe Prince Johnson? Even though several other people have given their own description of the personality, the kind of personality that Prince Johnson was. In fact, President Joseph Yuma Boakai said that, well, this man who wore several personalities and his record is replete with the Liberian conflict, but still, we lay him to rest. He's a king's man. Let me say, he's a statesman. He died as a statesman. And today we've come to lay him to rest. Several other people, Thomas Yaya Nimle, would say that this man, because he was afraid of being prosecuted, he had always found his way in the circles of the corridors of power. He has always found his way in the corridors of power so that he would extend his prosecution time. He did it during the Selis administration. He did it during the Wias administration. And according to Mr. Yaya Nimle, he even did it more for for Joseph Yuma Boakai than he did for other presidents before Joseph Yuma Boakai. But according to Mr. Yaya Nimle, he felt betrayed because despite his immense contribution, immeasurable contribution to the presidency of His Excellency Joseph Yuma Boakai, Ambassador Boakai still sought to bring the War Crimes Code to Liberia by taking a bold step in establishing the office of the War Crimes Court. Today he's gone. I'm now a legal person. I don't know whether people will raise issues against him and say, you know what, this man, we need to prosecute this man, and in prosecuting this man, we need to consider X, Y, and Z. Can he still be prosecuted? Can he? I mean, he has to plead now. He has to go to court. He has to, speak out for himself. How is that even possible for this man to be prosecuted? By the way, he's been buried. He's gone. He's no more in our midst. But what are one or two or three things can you say about the late Prince Johnson? Call us on those numbers: 0777 700. That's 0777 107, 0777 107, 0777 221 223 are the numbers you can call us on. Let's have a conversation. Let's reflect. As the young people will say, is it Papa once said, if you do not have your shower, you're not going to have your dinner. What did Prince Johnson once say? Maybe you might want to reflect on Prince Johnson once said that you people who want to bring the War Crimes Code to Liberia, you people are enemies. I remember one time he came out at now current President Joseph Yuma Boakai that we fought for you, we helped you, and what the only thing you could pay us back with is you coming to betray us and fighting us. I mean, he said all sort of things concerning Ambassador Joseph Yuma Boakai. Today he's been buried. Should we have the War Crimes Code established in Liberia? Do you think the real perpetrators of the war crimes in Liberia will be prosecuted? Given that maybe one of the individuals that many people considered as a warlord has been buried. He's died without facing prosecution. And one of his sons will say that this man, no court in this country prosecuted this man. No court in this country found him guilty. So therefore, he died a free man. That's in the words of Vice President Jeremiah Kpankun. But let's have a conversation. Call us on those numbers: 0777 777 107, 0777 777 107, 0777 221 223 are the numbers you can call us on to participate on the program this morning. This is Sky Morning Live on Sky 107.1. Today is the 20th day of January 2025, and I'm here this morning by 8 to 9 o'clock. We're going to be having a conversation with the Director of Communications, or the Communication Department. Let me put it that way. I don't know what his exact position is yet. The Communication Department at the National Bureau of Concessions, the NBC. He's Mr. Clifton Hilton. He's going to be our guest this morning to talk about a variety of issues from the NBC. In the meantime, at 8 o'clock, we're going to take the VOA news for 5 minutes. Thereafter, then we come back and usher in our guest. Then we delve into the conversation. But until then, Prince Johnson has been buried. A couple of other things people have said. What have you to say about Prince Johnson? All right. What can you say about Prince Johnson? Can you say he paid his price? He paid the price. Can you say he healed souls? He healed the brokenhearted, those people that he may have offended? Can you say he was able to to touch them before finally leaving the face of the earth. All right. I mean, a couple of other people will say that, well, Prince Johnson did not face justice. He died. Thomas Yaya Nimle has a different version of the story. The current vice president, Jeremiah Kpankun, has a different version of the story. All right. I mean, in fact, the current vice president came across like someone defending the late senator and clergyman and warlord, Prince Johnson. That you die a free man. Senator Prince Johnson, you died a free man. No court in this country prosecuted you. Nobody, absolutely nowhere at any point in time, prosecuted you. Let's hear from this person. Good morning.
Good morning, my brother.
Let's hear you.
I'm Aaron Tokba.
Mr. Tokba, welcome.
Yeah, my brother. My brother, I don't know what Liberians can always think how Liberia going. You know, it's the only country in Africa when people kill, they become good person. We are good. When they call supervisor, excuse me, they use all kinds of words to pay all this work. But this is who I'm talking about. Who Prince Johnson kill people, not only crime people he kill. He in fact has born mind killing some better people told you and they don't know nothing about that. Politics or running instead of fighting for the people. The people the telling until that man died, they couldn't help the prosecutor man. Go on to them, but tomorrow they want to change. Today you can come. Tomorrow next man will be King Kong.
What are you saying? There's going to be another civil war, and that's not what we are even pushing for right now, brother.
Hello?
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hello.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. That's what I just trying to say because you used to talk on the matter. You just talk about work and code. They will even get best for you because I bring just I want to bring just I want for him to go. And we saw the thing when I is a thing I view and we seen the men killing people. Then you don't want for the men to be prosecuted. They lead, doing all kinds of things today. They worshiping that man, burial, just like God, and all things, or somebody who do good thing. And I wrote in the man, they in this country killing people. So who I'm talking Liberian who suppose wrote in this country. And when it happened to you today, it's not happening to you happy, but it is something happened to yourself or your family inside, you got to know that you could support wrong thing. That's my contribution of the morning.
All right. Thanks for your contribution on the program this morning. Let's hear you. Good morning. Hello. Hello. Oh, wow. That person left the line, but call us back on those numbers. 077777107, 07777221223 are the numbers you can call us on to participate on the program this morning. Coming up at 8 o'clock, we're going to talk to hear from the Voice of America for 5 minutes of news. Thereafter, then we speak with our guest at 8:05 up to 9 o'clock. That's an hour. We're going to get an understanding of what the National Bureau of Concessions is. When you hear concessions coming into the country, you hear ArcelorMittal, you hear Firestone, you hear B Mountain. All of those companies are concession companies coming to Liberia. You hear Firestone and several others. There's an institution that's responsible for them. And maybe there's a concession company operating in your area, and then you're finding it difficult to actually get something from them. The MBC is that institution that's responsible to take care of all concessions companies in Liberia. And the MBC direct communication arm is going to be our guest this morning from 8:05 to 9 o'clock, where we're going to have a conversation. The brother expressed serious anger in some individuals. The thing is, it has been customary that it's difficult for someone to just stand during a burial ceremony and say that this man didn't know me. Have you heard a bad name? That a dead man has a bad name? Most of the people that have died, even before you and I started talking about dead bodies, most of the people that passed away, they've always had good names. A lot. If you wake keeping, or even at a funeral service where someone picks up a microphone and says something negative about the person laying in casket, I'll tell you what, it means that that person who's making that statement, they must have been really broken, or that person is an extremely bold person, very bold, that they do not know how to mince their words. That's the only way they're going to come out. So whether Prince Johnson killed, Prince Johnson did whatsoever, now he's dead. The onus are on us and the people that believed in him to, heal him, and then just shower him with some praises. Shower him with some praises while shower the man with some praises while he's being buried and so on. So I mean, it's so many other things will happen. People will say that man, he did this, that man, he did that. But it is your view. That's how you saw him while he was here. Other people, to some people, he liberated them. I think we're missing cause. Let's take at least one person. To some people, he liberated their entire families. He saved a whole family in some areas. In some areas, he killed a whole family, or his men, or his orders led to the killing of whole families. So you mean to say to me that because one or two things happen in certain areas, it means that this man was completely a bad person? Well, that's not for me to accept or not. But the thing is, he contributed to making 3 persons presidents of Liberia. This man was a warlord. All right? He fought. You are coming on the radio, criticizing him, damning him, and saying that he was a terrible person. But the people that you did not see to be terrible, they relied solely on his popularity to become presidents. Ellen did it for 2 terms. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. Yes, she did it. Boakai did it. No, Weah did it. Boakai did it. The very time Weah fell apart from him, he and Weah fell apart, he lost the election. Let's join the Voice of America and be right back.
The worldwide news update. AP correspondent Julie Walker reports on the ceasefire in the Gaza Strip, which took effect Sunday.
President Biden marking the long-awaited ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas Sunday, pausing 15 months of war.
After so much pain, destruction, loss of life, today the guns in Gaza have gone silent.
Hamas releasing the first 3 female hostages. Israel releases 90 Palestinian prisoners as part of the first stage of the deal the U.S. helped broker. The first phase of the ceasefire should see 33 of the nearly 100 hostages gradually returned and hundreds of Palestinian prisoners released. Biden also says humanitarian relief trucks were rolling into Gaza. Negotiations on the ceasefire's second phase should begin in just over 2 weeks. I'm Julie Walker.
TikTok said Sunday that it was restoring its service for American users after President-elect Donald Trump said he would revive the app's access in the U.S. when he returns to power on Monday. Reuters' Zachary Goldman.
A bipartisan law had threatened to force TikTok to either divest its U.S. operations or shut down, citing national security concerns and data risks due to the app's Chinese parent company, ByteDance. A unanimous U.S. Supreme Court upheld the law on Friday. But on Sunday, Trump wrote on Truth Social that he would postpone the period of time before the law took effect and set a goal, 50% ownership in the app by U.S. investors. He said, quote, "By doing this, we save TikTok, keep it in good hands, and allow it to stay up." Trump's support for TikTok is a reversal from when he first pushed for the ban in 2020 while in office.
South Korea's impeached president Yoon Suk-yeol has been formally arrested days after being apprehended at his presidential compound in Seoul. He faces possible imprisonment over his ill-fated declaration of martial law last month. His arrest early Sunday could mark the beginning of an extended period in custody for him. More at voanews.com. This is VOA News. Thousands of Donald Trump supporters packed a Washington arena on Sunday to celebrate his victory, a day before the president-elect returns to power with plans to aggressively reshape U.S. immigration and trade policy. Reuters' Olivia Zolino reports.
And we begin a brand new day of American strength and prosperity, dignity and pride.
The event marked his first major address in Washington since he delivered a speech on January 6, 2021, to his supporters that preceded the storming of the U.S. Capitol. Despite the cold and rain, thousands of his supporters formed a line wrapping several blocks around Washington Sunday, waiting for hours to see the incoming president.
It's a good, positive vibe. No one's complaining about the cold, the lines, the wind. It's a nice, it's a good feeling so far.
Trump spent the morning placing a wreath at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier at Arlington National Cemetery.
Southern Californians are bracing for gusty winds and a heightened risk of wildfires less than 2 weeks after deadly blazes that have killed at least 27 people and ravaged thousands of homes. VOA's Joe Ramsey reports.
The U.S. National Weather Service has issued a warning of a particularly dangerous situation for Los Angeles on Monday and Tuesday due to low humidity and warm, dry Santa Ana winds. Critical fire weather with wind gusts of up to nearly 100 kilometers per hour is also forecast for other Southern California communities. The warnings come as firefighters continue to battle two major blazes in the Los Angeles area. The region hasn't seen significant rainfall since last April. Joe Ramsey, VOA News.
Donald Trump will attend next week's World Economic Forum meeting in Davos virtually as world leaders wait to hear more about the incoming U.S. president's policies and his pledge to end the war in Ukraine. Reuters' Julian Satterthwaite reports.
Donald Trump is set to address the event by video link. He's been a regular at past meetings. This year, all eyes will be on what moves he makes after being sworn in. Delegates will also keep a close eye on any changes to U.S. energy policy. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky will be present, aiming to rally support from other world leaders. Other key topics on the agenda will include climate change and how to harness artificial intelligence.
Nigeria has been admitted as a partner country of the BRICS bloc of developing economies. BRICS was formed by Brazil, Russia, India, and China in 2009, with South Africa added in 2010 as a counterweight to the group of 7 leading industrialized nations. Last year, the bloc added Iran, Egypt, Ethiopia, and the United Arab Emirates. That wraps up this update, but the world of news never stops. For additional updates, visit our website, voanews.com. I'm Tommy McNeil, VOA News.
Can you hear my cry? I'm reaching for your love beneath this heavy sky. In the shadow of my pain, I bow my head to pray, begging for your mercy to take this guilt away. Mercy over judgment, Lord, hear my plea. I'm broken and I'm longing to be free. I'm not the man I used to be, so I'm asking, Lord, for mercy over me. I see the walls closing in, the silence feels so loud. I wear regret like chains, I'm lost within the crowd. But I know your grace can heal a soul like mine, turn the darkest night into a light that shines. I'm guilty of mistakes, I can't erase the past, but your mercy is the only thing that lasts. So I lift my hands and fall to my knees. Father, won't you grant me peace? Mercy over judgment, Lord, hear my plea. I'm broken and I'm longing to be free. I'm not the man I used to be, so I'm asking, Lord, for mercy over me. I've stumbled, I've fallen, I've walked a crooked line, but deep in my heart, I've seen your holy sign. Chains on my wrist, but I'm lifting my soul, begging for your love to make me whole. I'm just a man who's made a share of wrongs, but I sing redemption somewhere I belong. Judgment's a weight, but mercy is light. Lord, I need your grace to make it right. Mercy over judgment, Lord, hear my plea. I'm broken and I'm longing to be free. I'm not the man I used to be, So I'm asking, Lord, for mercy over me. I've stumbled, I've fallen, I've walked a crooked line, but deep in my heart, I've seen your holy sign. Chains on my wrist, but I'm lifting my soul, begging for your love to make me whole. I'm just a man who's made a share of wrongs, but I sing redemption song where I belong. Judgment's away, but mercy is light. Lord, I need your grace to make it right. Mercy over judgment. Lord, hear my plea. I'm broken and I'm longing to be free. I'm not the man I used to be, so I'm asking, Lord, for mercy over me. Oh Lord, I'm calling, can you hear my cry? Through this darkness I see a light nearby. Mercy over judgment, set my spirit free. I'm pleading, Lord, for mercy over me.
Good afternoon, good morning again, good morning once again, and welcome to another interesting edition of the program Sky Morning Live on Sky 107.1. God showed us mercy so that we can be able to do wonderful things in this world. Without your mercy, we are nothing. Welcome. Today is the 20th day of January 2025. My name is Matthias Labindi, and this morning I'm privileged to have with me in the studio the Public Relations Director at the National Bureau of Concessions, the NBC, Mr. Clifton Buema Hilton. Buaka Hilton. He's our guest this morning. We're going to be talking more about the NBC. Like I said to you the last time, that was during the WIAS administration. One of what I mentioned, the NBC is either Nathaniel Briswell is standing on the chair of Gregory Coleman, on the decks of Gregory Coleman and pounding it, or other he's challenging Edwin Dennis, that Edwin is incompetent and that this man cannot be the head of the NBC. I don't know what the NBC is like right now, so I'm reaching out and I'm saying this thing emphatically. If Nathaniel wants, last time I had a conversation with Nathaniel, he said, I cannot enter your studio until you bring me along with that so-called director general of the NBC. And that at that point now, I felt, well, there's something wrong with this space. I think we need to try to move to do more development journalism in this environment rather than always following the combative things. Currently, there is a new sheriff at the NBC. There's a new management, and we have a new communication director, Mr. Clifton Buaka Hilton. He's our guest this morning. You too can join the conversation by following us live on Sky Communications Liberia Facebook page, or better say YouTube on Sky FM and TV channel 6. And at the same time, we're going to open the lines to hear from you and ask some critical questions regarding concessions. When you say concessions, he's going to define it, but from a layman understanding, I think concessions are those business arrangements between a government and a company that go into an area and invest into the natural resource sector. For example, you have Bee Mountain, you have Firestone, you have ArcelorMittal. All of those are concessions. All right. So these are all concessions. If there's one company operating an area under the guise of concession, you might want to ask the critical questions. So what should people benefit in a particular area when you see a company operating as a concession? My name is Matthias Labindi. I'm going to open the line shortly to hear from you, but let me say good morning to my guest. Clifton, my brother, good morning. Welcome.
Yeah, good morning, Matthias Labendi. And let me say a pleasant good morning to the management staff of Sky FM. It's been a while since I sat on your platform.
Right.
But I'm not stranger to this platform. And let me say a pleasant good morning to the listening audience in Radio Land.
Right.
And especially the folks at the level of the National Bureau of Concessions. Thank you for having me. It's a great pleasure.
It's been a while, Clifton. I mean, I know that we've had lots of combative engagements, you know, in previous time where you came on the radio. I remember back during the Weah's administration, or prior to President Weah coming to power, you had this group called Intellectuals for the Election of Weah. And after President Weah got elected, your group took a position that many people criticized. You started questioning the regime on several critical fronts. All through the 6-year period, you've been critical. You remain critical with the regime. You appeared on several platforms. You critiqued the government. You were on your social media platform. Subsequently, you supported the Boakas administration. You know, I mean, just drive me through that navigational process. How did you, you know, transition from one political group to another political group, and how is it for you?
Well, thank you again, Matthias. As a young man, I believe in the principles of accountability. And when my decision was made to support the Weah's administration somewhere back in 2017,
right,
an election that brought President Weah as president of the Republic of Liberia.
Right.
It was based on the fact that I was convinced, based on my critical analysis of the previous administration, that Mr. Sirleaf, though performed very well during her first tenure in office, but there was some lackadaisical attitude in her second term, especially when it comes to the clamp down on the issues of corruption, something that people wanted to tie to the office of the vice president, then current president of Liberia, something that people did not understand. So they tried to play politics. So on the basis of that, I decided to support George Weah. And my decision was triggered by the fact that for approximately 12 years, we witnessed a grassroots movement headed by then President Weah that championed the cause for socio-economic justice, championed the cause for economic freedom, and spoke strongly against the issues of rampant and saturated corruption in the government then. When George Weah came to power in 2018, when he took office as president of the Republic, those advocacies were swept under the carpet. Somebody would say the critics of yesterday subsequently somersaulted and became the oppressors of the day. And so as a young man who believes in transparency and accountability, who believes in human dignity and economic freedom, I thought that it was a bastardization of the economic dignity of the Liberian people and a stab in the back of the advocacy that too many of our counterparts, our young counterparts, believe in, that we cause to have supported. So without no time, I defected, and that was the reasons I defected. Those were some of the reasons that I defected from the support of the Weah's administration. And thank God today, thankfully, we now have a new government that has respect for the rule of law, under the stewardship of His Excellency Ambassador Joseph Yuma Boakai, somebody who is a well-versed statesman par excellence. You can see the ground realities, though there are challenges, but I owe no apology for supporting this president. I believe in his vision.
Is it because you have a job now and you couldn't get a job during the Weah's administration? Is that why this regime is better off than the Weah's administration?
I would suppose that question wouldn't really be necessary, Matthias, because
why not?
Because you know me very well. If it was based on the issue of job, I was one of the first young men who criticized George Weah's government in the first 100 days of his regime, and I'm quite sure you and other individuals in the media landscape, attended a press conference that I convened at Peace Cafe on 17th Street.
Right.
That was just barely after 3 months of the Williams administration, while people were still singing. The likes of Henry Pedro Costa was one of those who were still singing George Weah when we saw that this young man, who was a president then, was already a failure to the Liberian people. And so if it was on the basis of job seeking, I would have continued to hijack my conscience and seek and continue my grievance seeking agenda. But Liberia is our common patrimony. We believe that Liberia must get better for all people across the divide, which is why our interest to ensure a better Liberia cut across the bailiwick of the Republic. It is not based on a personal accomplishment at the detriment of the livelihood of the Liberian people. So it was not on the basis of job seeking that I supported the rescue mission. I read the agenda. I saw that the rescue mission offers a lot to transform and rebrand the current governance structure of our country. And on the basis of that, I decided to support the rescue mission. And I'm proud to form part of a government, a responsible, a government that is committed to the growing needs of the Liberian people, that is already delivering on her promises. Like I said, there are challenges, don't get me wrong, because we inherited a messy system, a system that was abused, a system that was rigged, a system that was bastardized. I would choose to use the word again for the last 6 years. Human rights abuse was on the increase. People pillage national covers for personal comfort. It's no news to the media. And so I have no regret of supporting a responsible government who is bent on seeking the interests of the Liberian people. By this time, Matthias, under George Weah's regime, a 48 condominium were already built. People were owning fabulous properties, especially the people whose lifestyle that we knew then had already owned fabulous property with no account of how they obtained those properties. So people became satisfying their own economic interests at the expense of the Liberian people. And so for me, I thought that was draconian, economically draconian, economic tyranny against the state. And so which is why we joined a bandwagon of nationalists, patriots, people who believe in the revitalization of the state of affairs of our economy, people who thought that there's a need to ensure that a governing process responds to the will and wishes of the governed, that a process that will have a trickle-down effect on the lives of the ordinary people, a process that will address the issues of poverty, a process that will address the issues of mortality rate in our country, a process that will seek to address holistically the general challenges faced by the Liberian people across the bailiwick of our country. And so I'm proud as a young man to support this agenda, and I believe that the Liberian people will experience the common good from this government. And Joseph Boakai, His Excellency Ambassador Joseph Boakai, is committed to doing just that, and we are on the pathway.
Today you are at the National Bureau of Concessions. You know, few of the things that I know about the Bureau of Concessions are things that I said during my intro. Today you are the Director of Public Affairs or Public Relations Director at the MBC. First, let's begin by knowing what the MBC is about.
So the National Bureau of Concession is a government institution established through an act of legislation in 2011 with the mandate to monitor and evaluate the compliances of concessions across the country. And so that is the sole responsibility. We also lend technical support to line ministries and agencies concerned with concessions. And so that will include planning of concession, bidding processes, and so forth. So basically, our primary responsibility is to monitor the sector to ensure full adherence to concession agreements. signed with the government of Liberia across the country. And so this is what we do at the level of the National Bureau of Concession.
What is a concession? How do local people out of the ordinary Liberians, maybe seamen educated or non-educated at all, how can they identify a concession? How can they point out a company or business area and say this is a concession?
So a concession is an arrangement, a mutual arrangement, a mutual understanding that two or more individuals enter into with mutual benefits. And most often, one party seeks something more pertinent and desiring. And on the basis of that, the other party trade that identical interest. And once they come to a common understanding, a mutual understanding, where benefits are established in the context of the arrangement, it becomes a concession. And when it becomes a concession, then it moves into an agreement. And so you have two kinds of concessions. You have material concession and you have immaterial concession. In this case that I speak, in this context, this is material concession. An immaterial concession we have to do with, for example, maybe you hire a company, for example, you hire Sky FM to provide some media services, and then you agree on the timetable of which the services will be rendered. Okay, those are immaterial concessions, an example of immaterial concession. But on the basis of our own responsibility and the sector, all right, the trading of iron ore, the trading of maybe some other natural resources within the country, it is based on material concession. So
the company comes in the country and sees a particular natural resource that you want to pursue, and then it gets into contact with you. They get in contact with you and say, you know what, I am a company and I have done mining for some time now, but I want to do gold mining in Liberia. So you get in that can be considered a concession from when it's consummated.
Yeah. But when you say with you, I hope you're not referring
the MBC.
No, the MBC does not start. It's not the starting point, because basically you have the MBC monitors.
Okay.
But you have the concession is in 4 parts, 4 different sectors. You have mining, you have agriculture, you have public-private partnership, all right, and you have forestry. So it is based on the interest of the concessionaire,
right,
is where you begin. So, for example, if you have a concession company that comes to the country and wants to invest in the mining sector, so they begin from the Ministry of Mines and Energy,
right,
where they will go through the feasibility studies and other formalities in keeping with applicable laws and other regulations. When that is met up with, you've been licensed. But in that process, the National Bureau of Concession lend technical assistance, like I iterated earlier. We lend technical assistance in the procuring of concessions or planning. And
so meaning you also on the table with the Mines Ministry as it discusses the possibility of consummating an agreement between that company and the government of Liberia.
And that's why we have the interministerial
that's a question,
concession.
sir.
I said that's why we have the interministerial concession committee. Okay, it's a committee that comprises of line ministries and agencies concerned with concession issues. So we work together for a common agenda and common purpose in ensuring that the sector is properly managed.
How did you people meet the National Bureau of Concessions? Because the last time I checked, maybe Edwin Dennis was doing well, but prior to Edwin Dennis coming in, there's been one noise to another up to the point he even took over. In fact, before he took over, Gregory Coleman stopped there briefly. There was still noise up to the time he came. There was still noise and so on. But what kind of MBC did you inherit?
So, as you know, over the years, MBC have been in the news for the wrong reason. It is not a news across the media landscape. But as it stands now, though we met the situation on the ground, things were polarized.
What situation did you meet on the ground?
Like I said, things were polarized, you know.
In what context?
Well, like you iterated, like you mentioned, there were internal wranglings. There were internal wranglings, existing feuds. Those were issues we were confronted with. So we inherited a difficult terrain, but I'm proud to announce on good authority that the National Bureau of Concession is currently undergoing institutional revitalization and system reforms. The Bureau is quiet. People are now up to their responsibility in their respective roles. There is, in fact, one of the things that the Director General was confronted with when he took over newly was the issue of the headcount audit, the civil service headcount audit or personnel audit, which was a controversial issue across government ministries and agencies.
But how is that his responsibility? Because the CSA is responsible for that.
No, the CSA is not holistically responsible for that. The CSA partners with line ministries and agencies because the CSA will not develop her own report. It has to liaise with the HR department of each government ministry and agency to obtain credible information that they will critique, analyze, and come up with a finding, which will be submitted to said ministry or agency for response. And so immediately the Director General took over. That was I call that a test case. That was one of the issues he was confronted with because this process was executed long before he took over, and then immediately he took over, it came on his desk. And so what he did, he exercised due diligence. There was a committee, internal committee set up to prevail on the report that came from the CSA. That was intended to afford employees the opportunity to be heard individually in response to their record that was flagged in the report. Of course, that exercise was successfully concluded. The findings were submitted to the Office of the Director General, and the Director General acted in line with the findings. And it was excellently executed. That was one part. Today, I can boastfully say that one of the things that were flagged in the report was employees' absenteeism from work. All right, there were a lot of employees mentioned in the report who were not going to work. Some of them either not going to work at all, and so forth. Some other internal institutional matters concerning them. But the DG, I mean, after today there is improved attendance of employees.
But that
is evident by the IAA third quarterly report. There is improved attendance of employees
at the NBC.
At the NBC.
So what did the investigation uncover that led to the delinquency of employees not attending work?
Well, the thing is, everything for me is start to leadership. All right. There are some other challenges in the process. There are some other challenges. People had different reasons. Some people had to attend to other functions, national functions. Some people had to go to court. You know, they got this program in government where they take people as jurors to go to court. And maybe perhaps some of these things were not checked properly. And so that's why the Director General thought that it was important to set up an internal committee to investigate, because you don't just lay people off the job because of some other reason whatsoever. This man is a consummate public sector reformer. He comes with a myriad of experience when it comes to government. And so he tries as much as possible to effect his experience and expertise in ensuring that the Bureau is well managed. And so that process was successful. But today, we are proud to announce that there is improved attendance of employees. It means that people are taking their work very seriously. It means that once people are very serious and dedicated to their roles and responsibility for which they've been paid for, then it also means that the deliverables are certain, and which is why the monitoring strength of the National Bureau of Concession has improved. And another thing is that, and that is evident, like I said, it's evident by the IAA, the Internal Audit Agency report, the third quarterly report of recent. Okay, in that report, it was interesting to note that it also flagged and appreciate the new management of strict adherence to financial systems, applicable laws, and financial and other regulations of the Republic of Liberia. Right? So it was interesting to know that it also mentioned that. So it means that we can say kudos to the Director General, Honorable JSB Theodore Momoh, his two deputies, and a host of professional managers who are working assiduously hard in ensuring that we transform the National Bureau of Concession, something that will align with the AARD, the Arrest Agenda for Inclusive Development, and that will have a trickle-down effect on the Liberian people. So the transformation that is currently occurring at the National Bureau of Concession is also affecting the sector holistically.
Let's look at Clifton. Let's look at the issue of concessionaires or concessions compliance. You know, many times you tune in your radio, you hear various reports from different environments that this company is operating here. We can't even get safe drinking water. The road leading to go to this environment, to the company's area, is bad, and so on. You have this responsibility to monitor concessions and ensure that they are in compliance with their basic responsibilities. What have you discovered since you took over? It's 1 year now since you took over.
We have 66 concessions operating, 66 concessions in the country. And out of 66 concessions, we have 48 active concessions.
When you say active, what do you mean?
It goes to say that we have concessions that are active, that are currently operating, and we have concessions that have been inactive. For example, the Putu mining. The Putu mining is a concession, and you know it's inactive at current.
Okay.
So when I say active, I'm talking about concessions that are currently operating across the bailiwick of the Republic of Liberia. And so these concessions operate within the full sector of the concession aspect. You some operating mining, agriculture, and so forth, public-private partnership, forestry. There are challenges. Matthias, most of these concessions, if not all, are in non-compliance. Most of these concessions are in non-compliance. So when we took over, we have got to understand some of the reasons why our people are pushed into protestations in concession areas, because most of these concessions have not been adhering to the terms and conditions as enshrined in the concession contracts. But thankfully, under the watch of the Director General, we have been able to reach out, and we are reaching out because, mind you, we are not only monitoring and encouraging, and we are not only monitoring them and reporting on their failure to comply with the concession agreement, various concession agreements, because the agreements will vary depending on the kind of concession that you are venturing into. We are also clothed with the responsibility to ensure that we encourage investment in the country. All right. So there are challenges. For example, we've gone to Western Cluster.
Okay,
where there were threats of protestations by the locals. Based upon our conflict mitigation strategy, we were able to curb that identical plan. And we've been able to reach out. We had a roundtable dialogue interfacing the concessionaires with the locals to discuss some of the grievances from the locals. And we try as much as possible to encourage the concessionaires to ensure that they commit to the details of the agreement. For example, the issue, one of the challenges, the core challenges that we've had, an experience that we've had over time in dealing with concession issues across the country, is the issue of employment. It's an issue of employment. So you go to Western Cluster. The agreement says Western Cluster shall employ X amount of Liberians. And there have been complaints that the company failed since its inception, because Western Cluster was ratified in 2011 through an act of legislature. And up to present, they have been complaining of employment. And trust me, we have been engaging them, and the issues have been addressed gradually. They are gradually fulfilling their corporate social responsibility.
But have any of the concessions been able to let you know, or concessionaires be able to let you know what led to their delinquency in ensuring that their responsibilities are met? But before you respond to that, let me welcome your assisting director for public relations at the National Bureau of Concessions. Kindly introduce yourself. Welcome, sir.
Well, thank you very much, Matai. I'm so sorry that I have to come a bit late because of the traffic. I'm Erickson T. Kiamu, like you said, Assistant Director for Public Affairs at the National Bureau of Concession.
Welcome, my
so
brother.
He's my immediate boss.
Right, absolutely.
I'm honored that he was here ahead of me to make sure that he revealed information to the public.
And he's doing quite well with that.
Yeah, thank you. I've been following while I was on the taxi.
Okay, but I asked a question before introducing your colleague. What are some of the things? Because I may be a business person operating in this space. I know that I need to abide by the laws of the country, but there are certain things that may hinder me from meeting up to my obligations to the state. What are some of the things that some of the concessionaires have said to you that led to their delay in ensuring that these things happen? For example, employment of Liberians, a certain number of Liberians, promotion of Liberians to certain positions. Say you open this company, make sure that a Liberian is the general manager under no condition. It is written in black and white. What are some of the things they've said to you?
Well, most times they complain on skills.
Capacity of the Liberians?
Skills.
That are supposed to take over these various roles?
Yeah, that would be some of their issues that they were raised. But for me, I think those issues are infinitesimal to the employment of Liberians. And the National Bureau of Concession, most times we do not agree, because take, for example, senior managerial positions that should be occupied by Liberians. We have qualified Liberians coming out of universities almost every year. So we see this as flagrant excuses to adhere to the dictates of the agreement. Though some of these excuses are rational, but for the most part, you can have a company that operates a year, but that rectify more than 10 years. You have a responsibility to train Liberians. You have a responsibility to ensure that you fulfill certain obligations as a corporate institution. You've not done that. And so when we engage you, you look for reliance. So yes, we listen to them, but we do not holistically pay heed to the issues that they raised, because some of the excuses they give are scantic.
Okay.
And concession impact the general revenue of the country to a greater extent.
Right.
And so we are instituting measures. That will ensure that we monitor concession properly so that they comply with every aspect of the agreement.
All right.
Yeah. So that have been some of the experiences
I mean, that's a great one.
Yeah.
But let me ask Erickson before I get to the lines. You know, does the National Bureau of Concession have the political will, or one would say in an intellectual context, the balls to ensure that, say, for example, some of these companies or concessionaires that may be deemed untouchable, all right, be made to comply to their responsibilities to the state?
Of course, certainly, as far as we're concerned, there is a political will, and for the most part, I think moving the bureau is close with that authority to monitor and evaluate concessions issued in line with compliance.
Right.
So there is no way that there should be companies that have the hangers that cannot be monitored fully.
There'll be no need for arm twisting.
Yeah,
say, for example, your director general goes to a concessionaire and then he returns and he no longer wants to negotiate on behalf of the people, because your role, if you say compliance, the MBC is to ensure that concessionaires comply. It means that the burdens of the ordinary people are on your shoulders.
Right.
Because if they do not comply, the people in those various concessions will not be able to get their basic needs. So it is your responsibility to ensure that they comply. Would there be any reason why your institution, the MBC, will receive some arm twisting, and that no way that you go back to Matthias concession company in this area and say, Matthias, you got to do this, because Matthias has already done something?
There has never been a case, and there will never be a case in line with the NBC function.
You trust the leadership?
Yeah, sure. The able leadership at the moment, they are close with that responsibility. They have the given experience, and they have received a serious commitment from the executive to make sure that compliance become a non-avoid issue that will be accepted across the landscape.
So with the current state of affairs in the country, you've witnessed, you've watched, like your boss said, Clifton, you've monitored most of the concessions since you came over, you've visited some of the areas, you've interacted with them, you've managed to engage into some conflict resolution and so on. What can you say about the way people are receiving the MBC now, contrary to what it used to be like?
Oh, quite well. MBC has, there's another phase of the MBC now where monitoring and evaluation is at a high peak. And so you can now solely trust the ability of the leadership and the MBC to make sure that the government envelope in terms of revenue generation will increase in the coming days.
Okay. We're going to join the lines, the public quickly to have a conversation. Mr. Hilton is the director, public affairs director, public relations director at the National Bureau of Concession. Erickson Camon is the assisting director for public relations at the National Bureau of Concessions. They are my guests this morning. We're talking about the MBC. Remember, I said that we need to graduate from being eventful people. We are people who operate based on events. When one thing occurs in the country, everyone's energy is directed to that particular thing. Most of the time, we do not ask the hard questions. When you talk about concessions in the country, every morning you wake up, you're going to hear someone saying to you from one area to another that here is this Maryland oil palm company is here, Firestone is here. Firestone has been here for many years. It has not produced rubber bank or so. I don't know whether the MBC has that authority to tell Firestone to start producing rubber bank or plastic or so on. But several other people, several issues will be arising from various concession areas. But what can you say? What are your questions? What are your thoughts? What are your concerns? What are basic things on your mind regarding concessions this morning? I know that I'm very sure all of us, one way or the other, we come from a community that has a concession company operating in our area. And we have some questions. So ask your questions now. Throw your questions at the gentleman in the studio. They're going to respond to them. The numbers are 0777 107, 0777 107, 0777 221 223 are the numbers you can call us on to participate on the program this morning. This is Sky Morning Live on Sky 107.1. The next time you hear the voices, maybe it will be on 50-50, and maybe by that time they may be here with their director general to share with us their thoughts on the issues there from the National Bureau of Concessions. But you can join us now on those numbers. Let's have a conversation. Clifton, you came in just a year now. I mean, you've operated for about a year now. This is your second year as an institution or a new administration. You've not been there for a year.
No, we took over. The Director General took office on August 20th.
August of last year.
August of last year.
Okay.
So we approximately 6 months since we took over the bureau.
Within 6 months.
Yeah.
How do you rate your challenges and progress?
Well, like I said, we met a challenging environment, work environment. Notwithstanding, with the experience of the Director General, we've been able to mitigate those challenges by the intervention of major reforms, system reforms, institution revitalization, which is currently ongoing, and it is affecting, the general workforce positively. Under his stewardship, we've been able to harness the needed skill set to enhance the professional work environment in ways that align with our mandate as an institution in terms of monitoring and evaluation. 2 different trainings were conducted.
Okay.
Thanks to our partner, thanks to the World Bank and its implemented partner, LIFT, for the training.
Trainings of what? Of staff?
Training in the area of monitoring and evaluation to build upon the capacity of the employees, which underscores efficiency and effectiveness in the area of monitoring of compliances across the country. And furthermore, there is a website that is currently under construction.
The MBC.
The MBC is under construction by LIFT. We also wanted to say thanks to LIFT, for the level of commitment and in helping MBC achieve its desired goals under the stewardship of Honorable Momoh. So yes, we met a challenging terrain, but we are getting there gradually. Of course, it's not overnight stuff. It's a process, but we've made immense impact so far. Very soon, those who were trained, Tonesomo individuals, will soon be certificated. It tells you that we are getting even more prepared to ensure that they just launched a rest agenda for inclusive development, escorted by the counter development agenda, can be achieved. The MBC has a greater part to play, like other land ministries and agencies, especially at the counter level, because if you want to achieve a counter agenda in terms of reducing poverty, improving education for our people, providing education facilities for the locals, creating a transition into human capital investment and so forth. Then those concession companies that operate in those counties need to be in full compliance, full adherence with concession agreements.
Right.
All right. And once they are in full compliance, it means that the county development agenda will be actualized. It's certain that it will be actualized. And MBC has a greater responsibility to ensure that the arrest agenda for inclusive development, escorted by the county development agenda, is actualized by the quality of work that we bring to the table, that we bring to the sector in transforming the sector to ensure that it has a trickle-down effect on the livelihood of the Liberian people.
You earlier mentioned about 66 concessions. I think 48 are active, others are inactive. Have you been able to find out why the others are inactive?
Investigations are ongoing. There were other challenges because some of those concessions were inactive for the last 10 to 12 years.
Okay.
But investigations are ongoing. Like I said, we just
but they've not closed their books in terms of operation to say, Liberia, we are finally packing our stuff out of your country. We no longer operating in Liberia. They still seemed open to the government.
Not that I know of. And like I said, we are committed to working with line ministries and agencies concerned with concessions within the sector to ensure that we do not only monitor, like I said, we provide technical assistance across.
Well, you've mentioned technical assistance in several ways. I mean, about 3 or 4 or 5 times. Now I'm interested in knowing what sort of technical assistance do you render to the concessions?
Planning of concessions.
What does that mean?
I mean, when you are in the planning stage of a particular process, you need experts to provide, expert advice and inputs that will articulate the best bet that will respond to the governance issues of the country, especially relative to the sector. So NBC is committed to that. The bidding process, NBC also has a role to play, and negotiation processes as well.
Right, that is an assistance you render to the companies coming to invest.
No, that is a technical assistance that we render to ministries and agencies concerned with concession issue, because concession originates from different ministry and agency depending on the kind of
and you don't do that for the concessionaires.
Well, it's a mutual engagement. Of course, the concessionaire, it may come in your country to invest. We'll have his technicians as well. So our responsibility.
So if he doesn't, you leave him blind to just go in.
No. In the context of best practice, no reputable investor will come in the country without having the needed resources, human resources, or what have you, to ensure that they can articulate their interest to the core. And our responsibility is to ensure that we articulate the interests that will align with the vision of the government and that could respond by extension to the interests of the Liberian people at large.
So should there arise a need for you to assist a concessionaire in providing technical support, would you do that?
Well, of course, we've been doing that. We've been going to them. We've been encouraging them, because some of them are really doing well, and I must commend some of them are doing well. And some of the challenges they have is PR, public relations.
Okay.
Because these are some of the reasons why we experience protestations across conflict-prone concession terrain, because of the low skill of public relations. When you do what you do, the locals will not know if you do not have a proactive PR in place to explain some of the gains that you're making, the impact you're making in the lives of the locals. All right. So politicians could use that to play on the intelligence of the people and provoke them to protestation. So we go there, we talk to them, we encourage them. You need to move out. You need to do some community engagements with the locals. Explain to them what you've done. Explain to them what is underway. In that way, when they get to understand, it reduces the appetite of getting involved with protestations.
Absolutely.
So, of course, we are concerned. Like I said, we are not concerned of monitoring them in terms of compliance with the interests of the government or the state. We are also concerned about how they perform, because the actualization of their performance is vital to the growing needs, the growing economic need of the Liberian people. We do just that.
Right. Let me hear from Erickson. Erickson, what kind of image, do you people intend to paint of the National Bureau of Concessions, contrary to what we had 6 years ago?
Image that is far more responsible for monitoring evaluation. If you were to visit activities of the NBC right now, you'll realize that we have gone, beyond our scope, like the director is explaining. One of the issues concessionaires face is that PR, like he rightly said. So we're now moving into the concession area and informing the concessionaires that you need to improve on your level of PR. That will help. To the fullest, because our people, the locals, they do not understand what is in the mineral development agreement, and they don't know what is in it for them. When we can be able to explain to them fully what are those variables and that are there and how they can benefit and who stands to benefit what, in that way it mitigates the issue of a conflict and post conflict that are happening across the country. And so that is the kind of NBC that we are presenting at the moment, and we want for people to be able to understand.
So this NBC is more talking, engaging, sitting and discussing,
monitoring, evaluation, reaching out to make sure that the people understands the variables and to be able to make sure that they understand the true function of NBC, as well as the concession and what is in it for them.
With this approach, what do you envisage? What can you say that in the next few years, maybe say 3-4 years from now, what sort of concession space would we have in the country?
You will be able to realize that in concession area, the issue of conflict will be at a low scale, and there will be full level of compliance in terms of remittance to government revenue or so, or whatever that is in the renewal agreement. Will be able to have a trickle down to the rest of the country. And so that's the kind of NBC we yearning for.
You know, there are times I've done radio for several years, and many times when you have certain discussions, and you notice that people are not, disturbing themselves to phoning. They're learning more. They are understanding more the discussion that's going on, so that they can take away something. What can you say? Lastly, that is my last question to you before I join your boss and close up. We have 2 minutes, just maximum 2 minutes. What can you say to someone listening to you right now who is a citizen of Grand Cape Mount County, of Bomi County, of Bapolo County, say of Maryland County, where they have the oil palm and several other concessions in Cape Mount and Bomi and so on? What can you say to them regarding their basic social services that the company should be able to provide for them in the coming years?
With the current engagement ongoing by the leadership at the level of the National Bureau of Concession, we can assure everybody across the country that you will be able to meet up with whatever that is in the mineral development agreement, whatever community that you are situated in, you will be able to benefit to the fullest, because you're
going to be prevailing on the company.
There are vigorous engagement in terms of monitoring and evaluation to make sure that companies meet up with compliance at the moment.
What's the name again, brother?
What's in the making?
What's your name again?
Oh, I'm Erickson T. Kemo, Assistant Director for Public Relations.
He's Erickson Kemo, and that's all the time for Erickson. Let's close up with you, Clifton. How would you like to close?
Yes, so we want to assure our people that under the stewardship of Honorable JSB Theodore Momoh, we are going to do it differently this time around. Already there is consideration to establish initially 2 regional hubs in the country that is intended to enhance the issue of monitoring of concession across the country. And the essence of that is because some parts of the country are far to reach. And so we are putting in place this monitoring infrastructure to ensure that we can fast track the issue of monitoring of compliances with concession across the country, because our people need to benefit. This is our part, our role to ensure that the REST agenda for inclusive development is actualized, especially with the county development agenda that have just been launched. So the people can be assured that we're going to do it differently. We appreciate what our predecessor did. We are optimists, perennial optimists. We always see the glass half full. And so we are picking up from there to ensure that we improve upon what we met in the system. And you can be guaranteed that the best bet is on the way, and we will ensure that concession is experienced and the benefits are accrued under the livelihood of our people in terms of economic growth and development. Thank you ever so much, Matthias Labendi, and to the management staff of Sky FM. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. And that's all the time we have for today's edition of the program, Sky Morning Live on Sky 107.1. It's been a pleasure having a conversation with the communication arm of the National Bureau of Concessions, Mr. Clifton B. Hilton, Director of Public Relations, and Mr. Erickson T. Kemo, Assistant Director for Public Relations, both from the National Bureau of Concessions. We're going to do this, often, so that you people can understand more about the responsibilities of the Bureau institutions and how they are executing their duties. My name is Matthias Labendi. The next time you hear me, it's going to be on 50/50 at 10:30 this morning, and again tomorrow morning at 7:30 to 9 o'clock on Sky Morning Live. Have yourself a wonderful day.